The news cycle continues to ramp up and get crazier and crazier. Did ABC News rig the debate in Kamala's favor? It's looking like it. Are Haitians eating animals in Ohio? It's looking like it. To go over this and some of the biggest stories in the news, I have Anthony Cumia with me. Anthony, thank you for joining me.
Pleasure, Stephen. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. Let me give my audience some background. You've been in media for a very long time. You're a podcaster, radio host, writer, founder of Compound Media. You've done very, very well using your voice to amplify stories. I wanted to get your thoughts on this. There's always this battle between the left and the right. Left-leaning media says Donald Trump is awful and Kamala Harris is the best. Right-leaning media says Trump is winning and will change the country. However, the left-leaning media is much larger. Their reach is greater. Do you think that they are now at a point where they're not just trying to make Donald Trump look bad, but they're actually trying to black pill America, where they make people lose hope in the country, in the candidate, just every single way they can to make it look like if you vote for him, he's not evil, you're evil. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, man. The media has just been on a steady decline for decades now, at least. I mean, liberal media has always been a propaganda wing for the left. That's a given. But I mean, they're not even trying to cover it up anymore. They don't even try to hide that fact these days. And I think a lot more people, though, have caught on to the fact that mainstream media is a lie. It's just they will put out stuff in order to get the agenda across, and the powers that be are in charge. You know, you could speculate as to who that is, a consortium of people that are not elected. They're unaccountable to anything, and that's our mainstream media. And I think part of it is giving people this sense of hopelessness and nothing you do can help. You're just along for the ride. Because I think a desperate, scared population is easier to manipulate by the power base, the government, the top of the pyramid. You know, there's a lot of speculation as, like I said, who that can be, but they definitely work hand in hand. And as far as Trump goes, I mean, this guy, I lived in New York. I grew up in New York. And ever since I can remember, I knew about Donald Trump. Everyone did in New York. He became a very national figure in the 2000s, I guess, after 9/11. And then the TV show, The Apprentice, he becomes this world-renowned personality. And no one didn't like this guy. He was, he was Trump. He was obnoxious. He was funny. He was a guy. And you never heard anything about racist, sexist, homophobic. This guy's a xenophobe. Never, not a word. No, none of these people came forward and said, "Oh, he sexually abused me. He did that." Nothing. And then the second he came down that escalator in 2016, 2015, whatever it was, all of a sudden, he is the worst person you've ever seen in your life. This is a terrible human being. He is out for himself. He wants to hurt this country. He's against democracy. I mean, all the usual stuff we heard for just about 10 years now. And it's a lie. It's obvious. If you have any sense, any, ability to reason in your own head, you can see that he was a great guy, funny guy. People loved him. Liberals loved him. Hollywood, SNL, he's on there. He's on The View, yucking it up with The View girls. And then he's a piece of garbage because he got into that little club that you're not supposed to get into unless you've been invited. You've gone through all the hoops that they want you. You've been indoctrinated. And you're part of, they like to say the Republicans and Democrats are different, but he was really different. And you could just see how that upset them and what they needed to do. And now, I mean, there's nothing they haven't tried to get rid of this guy. from literally trying to put him in prison, which they're not even done with that yet, to trying to kill him. And, what's next? It's scary.
Yeah. Yeah, the stories they'll invent. I'll tell you a funny one. In 2020, when I was covering that presidential election, I remember reading this story about how one time Donald Trump allowed a lost boy in his Plaza Hotel to stay there without their parents, and that he didn't help this little boy, And then I realized, oh my gosh, they're describing Home Alone 2, Lost in New York City. And he's in the movie for 1 second. Hey, where's the lobby? That way. And they make this whole lie around him being this horrible human being, and they're literally describing Home Alone 2. It's like,
oh my God, that's
hilarious. The lengths that they'll go to shame and embarrass him. I mean, for heaven's sakes, he got shot in the ear, and like everyone just pretends like there was no assassination attempt on this guy's life. And now, we're reading just in the last 24 hours that this national debate on ABC News may have been rigged. What were your thoughts on the debate, good or bad? And what are your thoughts, Anthony, on this whistleblower saying that the ABC News rigged this in Kamala Harris's favor? They provided her with sample questions ahead of time that just happened to be the questions they decided to go with. And then they gave assurance that Donald Trump would be fact-checked and she would not. And that's exactly what happened. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I watched the debate, and I actually simulcast it and commented with Gavin. We had a great time. And watching it, well, what I took away was anything short of Kamala Harris falling on the floor was going to be a plus for her. Everyone was used to Joe Biden at this point, 3.5 years of this guy that obviously has some form of dementia. So the contrast between him debating and her debating, of course, she's going to look better. She was a prosecutor. She was a politician for a while. She's definitely got the ability, at least, to speak. What she's saying seems to be all lies and agenda-driven nonsense. This whole feel-good the feel-good thing to me is just, it's so useless when they get into this, if we as Americans work together, we can accomplish anything. And it's like, this means nothing. It's feel-good nonsense. What is your plan? What's a strategy? How are you going to go about doing these things? You never hear anything about that. And watching the debate, you could see her scrambling. She has no record to run on. Her record's terrible. She was in charge of one thing, the border, and that is the biggest catastrophe we've had in this country, especially as far as the border goes, for as far as I can remember, history. I've never seen the border this bad, and she was the one whose name was on it. So while she was capable at standing there and answering or not answering questions better than Joe Biden, I think the substance of what she was saying was just not there. She had nothing. Trump was Trump. Coming up with things, bringing up the dog and cat thing was hilarious. It was classic 2016 Trump. It got some laughs, but well, I guess we'll talk about that in a bit too. But them saying it was debunked or denied, and they're fact checking him, like you said, that's garbage. I mean, it is true. People have said that that's happening to their pets. So it's like, again, ABC News. It's a propaganda wing for the left. They were not going to give him a fair shot. And you saw that. And I'm glad that some of the mass media companies have reported that it was 3-1, like that. But as far as Trump's debate performance went, I think he was Trump, but he could prepare a little more, and he could have ended it on a little more of a positive note. He ended it. He left us dangling in a post-nuclear radioactive dystopian landscape. Everything's terrible. They ruined the country. The country's awful. We have these terrible invaders. The economy's and I would have liked at least 30 seconds of going, and here's how I'm going to make it so much better. But he just left us hanging with this view of America that you wanted to, jump off a cliff. So he could have done better in that case. But I do think he won because he was bringing up things that people are facing, real issues that need real solutions. And she was, obviously avoiding very important question. The first question of the night: do you feel that people are better off now than they were 4 years ago? Well, my principles, I grew up in a middle-class family. She did not answer one of the most important questions in an election. They always say, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Make a decision in the voting booth based on that. She couldn't even answer that, the most important question of an election.
Yeah, it's like, hey, how are you going to bring down the price of gas and groceries? Well, I grew up in a middle-class home, and I went to middle school. And I'm the middle child.
What?
And I have sat on a bus with people of color, in the middle. They put me in the middle. Somebody summed up very easily. It's like Kamala gave us platitudes and Trump gave us policies.
Yeah.
And again, this is a unique election where both have been in office, both have a record. Trump points back to his record, and there's a bit of nostalgia for pride in America, nostalgia for affordability and safety. And when you look back on Kamala's record, you go, okay, wait a minute. My life has become so ridiculously expensive. I feel like the country's not as safe. Are they trying to replace me with like a third world nation person that believes in socialism and communism because they're easier to control? Like I felt that, and I agree. I don't think this was Donald Trump's strongest debate. I think Kamala's team worked very hard to come up with talking points that would get under his skin.
Yes.
I believe David Muir and Linsey Davis, I believe they and their writing team also came up with ways to get under Donald Trump's skin.
Absolutely.
And it did work a little bit. And I believe, we're all human. I know for a fact there's things that people could say to me that would make my blood pressure spike a little bit. But again, people want to know, how am I going to feel safe? How am I going to put food on the table? How am I going to raise a family? And I feel like they got more of an answer from Donald Trump than Kamala.
Yeah, I mean, she hasn't given any real answers. She's said she's going to somehow lower prices. The whole blatant lie about she has secured the border. She's strong on the border because she was a prosecutor in California. And if drugs somehow made their way up from Tijuana to San Diego, she prosecuted some of these people. What does that have to do with an entire southern border of a country being invaded by people that just do not belong here? She had no answer for that. The price of things, inflation running rampant. They're printing money. They're sending billions of dollars overseas to these various wars. And she thinks that all the retailers have gotten together in the past 3.5 years and decided to jack their prices up and price gouge America. Out of nowhere, this just happened. Everyone agreed too, because the prices are all high for everything. Energy prices, the fracking thing that she said she never said, that is obvious. You could pull up a clip in a second. They believe that this stuff goes away. Many years ago, I remember politicians flip-flopping on a topic. And there'd be one or two people that were very politically savvy, and they'd go, hey, that guy is lying. 2 years ago, he said whatever. And what am I going to do? Go to a library and get some microfiche and research the big book in a basement of a government facility? No, you just had to listen to what they said and believe it. Now, dude, Everything is right here. You said something 4 years ago. Oh, wait a minute. She said this. She said she's going to ban fracking in Pennsylvania. And then she gets up and goes, no, I never said that. I never meant that. It's right here now. I don't know how they're still working with this old school ideology that a politician could flip-flop and we just don't know about it. We're too stupid and uninformed and have no ability to find out what they said years ago. Sorry, we know she said these things. We know she said that she wants inmates in prison to get federal funding for sex change operations. We know she said that. We know she wants Haitians to come to this country and be dropped in suburban neighborhoods because she said this. These are all things she said. It's researchable very easily at the tips of your fingers. And they just lie every single day about this. At least one thing you can say about Trump, he's pretty consistent. I mean, and that's why he's hated so much by the left. He's had the same ideologies and principles and plans for the country, and he won't budge on a lot of them. Some of them he has, obviously. Some of them, I believe he says to get elected. But they're not so far off of what he has said and done in the past that you go, wow, what the hell's he doing? Like Kamala's done. She's totally turned on so many of her and Biden's most important topics. And they make it sound like Trump is the one that has flip-flopped and turned. And then she starts adopting Trump's policies. It's insane. I don't know one person that can look at this woman and go, yeah, that's a leader. That's someone I want.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw this Freudian slip, but VP candidate Tim Walz said Kamala Harris started her career as a prostituter instead of a prosecutor.
Awesome. Yeah, I saw that.
Terrible. It's terrible. Anyway, we're not going to talk about the fact that she slept her way up the California ladder of influence. We're going to just leave it to the side. It's none of our business. Okay. I want to play a clip. CNN, Vann Jones over on CNN, he brings on this well-respected guest, and then the guest starts saying things that they don't want him to say. And you can see in Vann Jones, I can't decide whether he wants to punch this guy in the mouth or whether he's going to throw up. But let me play that. Really awesome. Quickly.
She is the worst polling Democrat against Donald Trump in history on national polls. No one is performing worse than her. No one's performing worse than her among blacks, among Hispanics, the worst performing Democrat in modern history among those demographics, worst performing polling-wise among Jews. She is losing key factions of the Democratic base. Muslim voters, she's at under 50%. She's at 52% in the latest CAIR poll among black Muslims. She is not doing well.
Yeah, he's like, okay, listen, she can't attract Muslims. She can't get the Jews. She can't get women. She can't get men. She can't get the rich. She can't get the poor. Like, who is she getting? I don't know. Like Taylor Swift?
Yeah, apparently.
Who is she getting? I mean, what are your thoughts on Vann Jones sitting there going, oh my gosh, why did we bring this guy on tonight?
There's, what's funny about CNN and people like Vann Jones, they don't really have a lot of go-to people that won't criticize Kamala. There's only so many people out there that are really steadfast on that track of she can do no wrong. But when you look at the truth of the matter, before Biden had that debate, and it was just a disaster. This is where everyone said he's got to go. You get George Clooney when he's going, hey, maybe, it's over. And they spent a short period of time in between when Biden had the debate and when Kamala was dubbed, Queen Kamala, where they were scrambling, looking for anybody else that they could put in that spot as the Democratic candidate. They couldn't. And it would have looked odd. They're touting this woman as a great vice president to Biden, but she's not good enough. She was a heartbeat away to a guy that looks like he's ready to collapse any moment, but she's not good enough to run for president. So I think they were so stuck with her. But this is a woman who just was not liked ever. She just isn't a liked person. She had to drop out of the primary before Iowa because nobody voted for her. 0 primary votes. So she drops out. Nobody likes her. She's never won a primary. It's obvious, again, it's right in front of people's faces how not liked she was in political circles especially. And then they give her the ticket, and she is the greatest, most powerful leader. You can't imagine anyone better. And we're supposed to believe this because the media is telling us, the left is telling us. They're packing arenas, but there's lines of buses outside of these facilities that she's doing rallies at. You look at a Trump rally, you don't see buses. You see some monster trucks in the parking lot and whatnot, but you don't see, lines of buses that the usual suspects are getting off of. These boomer women, boomer white women, liberal white women, old men. It looks like they're cleaning out retirement homes in the buses and packing Kamala events with these people. So everything is a deception from these people. Every single thing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Yeah, the buses and then weren't they like bright green or something at one of the rallies? It's like,
Yeah.
You couldn't have done like just a normal city bus to,
right.
to deceive, make your deception a little bit more deceptive.
You might want to
these
hide
bright
it, right?
green tennis ball colored buses
Yeah.
or whatever it was. All right. My next question, I see what looks like a painting of a cat behind you. I hope this won't be triggering to you, Anthony, but why do you think this story of Haitians eating animals in the park and people's pets became such a big story? And then why are they denying it when there is multiple police reports? There's tons of videos online saying, these Haitians, they're coming here, they're crashing their cars everywhere because they don't know how to drive. They're eating our pets. There's even a body cam video of a police officer finding a woman in the act of eating a neighbor's cat. She's got blood on her face, fur on her lips. And the guy's saying, never in my entire police career have I ever had to arrest somebody in the act of eating a cat. And yet they say, Donald Trump is crazy. Leave our cat, our cat lady voters alone. What are your thoughts on all of this?
Well, the reason it's such a big story is you don't have to do anything more than scroll through any of your social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook. No matter what your interest is, you could be a car guy, you could be an equestrian, you love horses, you could be a model hobbyer, whatever it is, your algorithm will have those things in it. What else does everyone's algorithm have? Look at this dog. He's adorable. Americans love their animals. And the second anyone says anything bad about animals, it's off. Game over. We're out for blood. Never mind just saying something bad. If you are harming animals in this country and in this fashion, you're literally eating people's pets, you won't hit a more sensitive nerve with Americans than with their animals, with their pets. They are gods to us. We treat them impeccably. And people, they're very sensitive to that. So that is why this is such a big issue. Now, is it fake? Is it a rumor? Is it a xenophobic, racist ploy to make people scared? And no. You have 20,000 Haitians. You bring them up. These aren't Americanized people. These aren't people that went to a school on how to run and work in an American society. These are people that came from a country which is arguably the worst country on the face of the earth. Literal cannibalism. Warlords named Barbecue run this place. There's no government. It's a complete savage anarchy. Now you take 20,000 of these people and you plop them in a suburb of 60,000 people, they are now a quarter of the population. That is a huge, rapid demographic switch. Now, these aren't demographics that you're taking someone from maybe a city in Illinois, a suburb, and dropping them in Springfield, Ohio. You are taking people that are so separated from our ideology, our ethics, morality, empathies, all this, and they do eat dogs and cats. They eat mud. I watched the whole thing yesterday on they make a slurry out of dirt and water, dry it, and eat it. That's not a rumor. This is not being racist. This is absolute fact. So a dog or a cat is like watching a gourmet meal walk by. So who's to say you take 20,000 of these people, you put them in a suburb of 60,000, that they aren't going to continue what they know? Oh, is that a pet? They don't conceive of a pet. They see a meal walking by. And to say it's absolutely been debunked, that's racist. How dare you? Our Haitian communities are going to... This is what is happening. I'm sick of them trying to tell me what I see, what I read, what I decipher in my head based on fact and what other people are saying. Thank God for social media like X and Elon letting people post this so we can see what's really going on and we aren't dependent on this fake news constantly trying to beat lies into our heads.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of the problem with Haiti and possibly the Haitian people is just the fact that there's tremendous poverty. When you're hungry and you have poverty, you think differently. And my only personal experience, I've met many Haitian people here in America. They're beautiful, wonderful people. I did a Christian service mission in 2001 in the Dominican Republic. I went down there. There were times I was the only white guy I saw, just Dominicans and Haitians everywhere. It was a really, eye-opening experience to live in a third world country. And I remember when the Haitian missionaries arrived, they were like, "Oh, wait a minute, we've got to lock up the food pantries because they were breaking in, and it had nothing to do. Like, these were good, moral Christian missionaries stealing food because they were so hungry, And so it makes you do crazy things to have that ache in the belly. So I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they just see things differently. At the same time, I had a mission, somebody that was that I served with from Tonga, and he said his favorite meal was horse ribs. And I was like, "You eat horses?" Like, I'd never heard that in my life, So, different parts of the world are just very differently, but it's like sacrosanct to eat somebody's, dog or their cat. But the art, the AI generated art, thousands of photos of Donald Trump for the rescue. It's just taken Twitter and the internet by storm. But I think you're right. If there's one story you want to suppress, it's that these people that Americans are saying, wait a minute, illegal immigrants coming in, and now they're attacking our pets. Like, you've got to shut that story down as a lie and a rumor. One of Netflix's best documentaries is Don't F With My Cat.
Right.
And literally somebody tortured a cat and put it online. And all of these internet sleuths and anons came together and they tracked this guy down because they're so mad about somebody torturing a cat. I think that's why they want this story to go away.
Oh, absolutely. It's, even me, look, I've been around a while. I've seen some really crazy stuff. And again, right at your fingertips, it's terrible and sad that on a daily basis, you're watching what amounts to snuff films. I mean, people being killed in horrific ways are all over your timelines, no matter what your algorithm ends up being. I can watch, and I have watched things from Gaza, from Ukraine, the horrific images of these drone strikes with grenades on people, graphic detail. I don't like it. I can watch it. The second I see a clip start where I see somebody grab an animal and I know something bad is going to happen, I scroll right past. I cannot watch it. I am physically and mentally incapable of seeing an animal harmed like that. So that's me, and I'm a piece of garbage. So I can't imagine the rest of, mainstream America seeing images of animals getting harmed by people that, regardless of the reason that they're doing this, they are indeed doing it, and people don't like it. I think as far as the immigration thing goes, especially of people from third world nations like Haiti, I guess I'm not even for this. I think the border should be completely closed at this point. But if you're going to be a government that wants people coming in, you take 20,000 Haitians. How about really spreading them out into different parts of the country? That way, in a generation or two, you have people that have been acclimated to what our country is about. They have people around them to go, this is our ideology. These are our morals and standards in this country. And they learn that way. You cannot take 20,000 people and put them in a very small community and expect them to be the ones that acclimate to the community. That's the biggest problem here with that. So when people say it's racist, you're depicting them as savages and these are people. Well, yeah, perhaps they can learn how we operate in this country, but not in an enclave of 20,000 of them in a community that was 60,000 people. There's a way to do things, and everything they've done has been the wrong way to do it.
Yeah. No, that's actually a really good point. They say birds of a feather flock together, but they're dropped into new culture, different religion, different way of thinking about the world, liberty, freedom of speech, behavior.
Yeah.
They're going to continue to act the way they see the other 19,999 versus the person that they don't know how to speak English with because they grew up speaking Creole. I think that's actually a good point. Two things. I read yesterday that Democrat Senator Richard Blumenthal, not my favorite guy, but he's on the Trump assassination investigation team. He said Americans are going to be shocked, astonished, and appalled when the truth about the Trump assassination attempt comes out. On top of that, just minutes later, Senator Josh Hawley on the other side is saying that Alejandro Mayorkas, the head of the Department of Homeland Security, is exerting tremendous pressure on Secret Service not to comply with or divulge information to Congress. I wonder what Blumenthal is talking about that's going to shock us. And then, hello, if this thing didn't look conspiracy enough, now the crime is the cover-up and Alejandro Mayorkas is at the head of it. What are your thoughts on these two stories?
Huge. First of all, Blumenthal, this guy has always been a liberal Democrat, hates Trump. This is no secret. For him to come out and say this, I would expect him to do the usual. Trump was in on it. It was a fake thing that he set up to make himself look like a hero. For him to come out and say something like this, here's my impression. I think he's going, oh my God, look over there. I think it's a distraction and a deflection. I think they're going to try to throw as many people under the bus in front of them to pile up bodies to protect them, because I think a lot of these people, like Dick Blumenthal, absolutely knew something was afoot. Now, again, you can go back and forth with, like people say about 9/11. Were they culpable? Were they knowledgeable about it and did nothing? Was it more nefarious? I think they're going to try to really string these guys up in the Secret Service and Homeland Security in order to deflect away from, what the hell did you know? How much info did you get about how shoddy their security was? Were there any inklings of a threat when you set up a non-security perimeter around the former president? Who knew about this? And I think the Democrats, are going to try to make more of a big deal about it than even the Republicans, as far as the incompetence goes, and maybe a cover-up to steer attention away from them, from people that are in Congress and the Senate that might have known a little more about this, and that info might come out that they did know more. They're going to try to, like I said, pile up the bodies in front of them to protect themselves.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting theory that kind of goes back to something Trump said at the debate. He said, listen, someone took a shot at my head because of things that Democrats and Kamala Harris have said about me in the media.
Threat to democracy.
And so, yeah, now it's like they have to go overboard, like you say, piling up people in front of them in order to wall them off from accountability and responsibility. I hope he's being genuine that we're being shocked, because I'm not going to lie, I got tricked by Adam Schiff during the Russiagate hoax when he would come out and be like, okay, I've just come out of a top secret meeting in a skiff. I wish I could tell you how horrible of a human being Donald Trump is. I wish I could tell you the horrible crimes that he's been in. But I can't. Goodbye, you know? And me being young, not paying attention, watching CNN, I was like, oh my gosh.
What
like
did he do?
We've got a terrible president like this, you know, like I fell for it. I've told my audience this. I'm embarrassed. But now my eyes are open, and I've built this platform of almost 1.8 million people in order to bring the truth, be skeptical of what everyone says. So I hope Dick Blumenthal is being genuine. I hope that we get to the bottom. But then to hear Senator Hawley say he's got whistleblowers telling him that Alejandro Mayorkas is putting tremendous pressure in order to bury this, keep information from Congress, that's extremely dangerous.
The really the downside of the whole thing is, you've seen it before. The Department of Homeland Security and the Secret Service, they can claim that they cannot put out this for national security reasons. They could put that tag on anything and everything. I mean, the Kennedy assassination, we still have documents that have not been uncovered from that. You got to ask why. What harm could that be? Everyone's dead that was involved with it. Most people are dead that were witnesses to it when they were standing there. But they keep that tag on it, and they could get away with literal murder by just putting a tag on it and saying, well, we'd love to let people know, but it would be a threat to national security. So I don't know how much we're actually going to get as far as real info goes. We see the lengths they'll go to protect themselves and hold that power base. So I am hopeful, but I don't expect anything.
Yeah. I'm kind of in that same camp. You've got a new book out, Spare Me. Tell me what the book is about. Why did you write it? What are we going to learn?
Well, I put my first book out years ago, probably 8 years ago, Permanently Suspended, it was called, because that seemed to be what happened with all of my social media platforms. And that was about, how I got into the business initially. It was kind of a very strange way I got into radio. It was very late in life. I was about 35 years old. I was a tin knocker, a sheet metal worker, and I kind of fell into it through my hobby of music and comedy and whatnot. But this book, there were a lot of questions after Permanently Suspended. People, they love dirt. They love, because there are rumors. You got a beef with this guy. How did you feel about this? I was in a partnership with a radio show. It was the Opie and Anthony radio show back in the 90s and 2000s. And people love to know, how did you get along with that person? I detected a little animosity. Hey, this comic is not doing your show anymore. Do you have a problem with that? So I figured, let me just put out a book and let everyone know what the issues are that I have with certain people and really kind of spell it out. So, I'm slinging some dirt here on comics. Bill Burr is a very popular comic actor now. He was a huge friend of the Opie and Anthony show and myself, and we had a falling out. People want to know what happened. So I put that in the book. Other comics. Comics are I love them. My career has been, hanging out in a studio with a bunch of comics as they just crap on each other and give each other, we'd call it busting balls. That's what you do.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was hilariously funny. But they are some of the most cowardly people you'll ever see. They
Okay.
talk about how they're the front line of free speech and, we're the courageous ones that'll voice our opinions no matter what the consequence. Get out of here. They turn in a second. If they see that doing a show with you or your names being attached to each other in a project will maybe interfere with them getting another a pilot out in LA next season, they will shut you off in a second. There's a few of them that are awesome, stick with you through thick and thin and whatever. But most of them, they'll throw you to the wayside, like much of Hollywood. They're just an offshoot of that same Hollywood attitude. So I go off on a few comics in here. My radio partner, Artie Lang from the Howard Stern Show, I did a show with him on Compound Media when I first started that up about 10 years ago with Artie. And Artie was just a disaster. He was funny. And when he was there, he was hilarious. But he was a guy that I say in my book, he would leave to go to the restroom during the show and just not come back. He would just not come back. The next day he'd show up and I'd be like, "Where, Artie, where?" "Oh, yeah, I had to go out. I had something to do. Something I had to do." And you're like, that's insane. But it's hilarious. Like, I don't care. I could do a show myself. The fact that he left is great for comedy fodder. And other people like Stuttering John from the Howard Stern Show. He's just a tool. So I kind of go off on him and just kind of what happened after SiriusXM during my time building and doing the shows on Compound Media, my broadcast company. So yeah, it's very interesting. People seem to be enjoying it. It's available on Amazon.com. The audio version, which I toiled through to get done, those are always a treat, is available for pre-order on Amazon. It's coming out next month, October. And I added a few little things in there too that people, if they read the book and you listen to the audio, you'll get a few little things. And it's like I'm, put your earbuds in when you go to sleep. I'll lull you to sleep with my wonderfully optimistic viewpoints on life.
Well, I'm excited for people to have a chance to get it. If people want to follow you online or Compound Media, where can I point them? What links can I put down below?
Well, there are two platforms that my show is on, compoundmedia.com and censored.tv. Those are the two places. You go to either one. It's a subscriber-based platform because, but it's cheap. It's cheap every month because you can't do what we do on YouTube or any other social media platform, really. This gives us the freedom to know who we're talking to and to not get somebody that's accidentally hearing something offensive and goes to providers or, your web provider, sponsors, anything like that. It's a nightmare. I've been through that in traditional radio and on Sirius satellite radio. So this is a great way that we can do shows that are much more controversial and dynamic than a lot of shows that are out there that are sponsored or Patreon or something that you need a bank to do. Yeah, that would be compoundmedia.com or censor.tv. Online, my Twitter, X, is my name, Anthony Cumia. I am on there a lot. I skirt that line between getting thrown off and discussing the truth and things that people are talking about and very pissed off about here in America. And my YouTube is Compound Media. And I stream on weekends. I'll get on there. I'll play Call of Duty. I'll play PGA 2K23. I'll just get on and talk. So you subscribe over there. Follow me at Compound Media on YouTube, and you'll get an alert. And, I'm up at all hours of the night streaming and having fun.
Okay. I will put those direct links down below. Anthony Cumia, thank you so much for coming on. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Steven, you too. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks.